to the United States, and the Supreme Court there has struck down the affirmative action in college admissions, declaring race cannot no longer be a factor of forcing the institutes of higher education to look for new ways in order to achieve diverse student bodies. This comes as a major blow to the decades-old practice that boosted educational opportunities for African Americans as well as other minorities. Well, to get more on this, we have Asra Nomani joining us, an American author and former Georgetown University professor. We also have with us Raj Bhutoria, youth political advocate, with us this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me take my first question to Asra Nomani. Many reactions coming into this ruling, from President Biden to the Obama slamming this ruling to Donald Trump agreeing with this judgment. What is your reaction, and how surprising has this ruling been for you?
Well, I am so happy about this ruling because, you know, I arrived in this nation from India at the age of 4 with my parents here, settled in this nation, having chosen America because we have this little document called the U.S. Constitution. And in this Constitution is an amendment called the 14th Amendment that guarantees equal protection under the law. What I have been so sad to see over recent years is that there is a new discrimination against minority group, and that minority group is Asian Americans, and many of them are from India. And so today's ruling is such a significant victory for all of us who fight for equality.
Right. We also have Raj Bhutoria with us. Raj, being an Indian American, what are your views on this, and how do you think this will impact the Indian American students going forward?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me back. So, as I said before, 60% of Indo-Americans and the majority of Asian Americans support affirmative action. And I think a big part of that reason is because affirmative action primarily helps disadvantaged communities. Now, with the reversal of affirmative action, there has been no action on legacy admissions. Legacy admissions is the practice of letting a student whose parents attend the same college and allow them to have preferential treatment in admissions. Now, Harvard was one of the universities named in this lawsuit. In the class of 2022, 36% of Harvard's admits were legacy admissions, the primarily white students. So this is fundamentally helping students whose parents have the ability to go to college. And this hurts Indo-Americans. I mean, the majority of Indo-Americans, like myself, were the first in their family to go to an American college. We don't have those same advantages where our parents had the opportunity to attend an American college. So with the reversal of affirmative action in 1996 in California, the attendance of Black, Hispanic, and other disadvantaged communities fell 60%. But at the same time, legacy admissions continue, composing almost over a third of all colleges. So this means colleges will become less diverse. They will favor those who have money and whose parents have attended that college previously, and will overall hurt the American educational system, but also the American dream, which allows people to achieve great things in the United States, even though they don't come from privileged backgrounds. And education is the #1 way which students can achieve their dreams.
Right. Now, Asra, if you could come in, colleges and universities will now have to consider other factors in order to increase diversity on their campus. What steps can be taken in that direction?
Well, I'm a leader of an organization called Coalition for TJ. It's a high school in Northern Virginia. And in 2020, the school board removed merit admissions tests because they decided that there were too many Asian students, including Indo-Americans, as the other guests just described us. Well, what has happened is that the number of Asian students has dropped significantly because merit, this very simple concept, is out the window. Now, what the universities will do now is use proxies, just like the school board did here in Fairfax County, Virginia. In Fairfax County, they say, ask students about their experience factors. They use proxies for race. And Harvard University has already indicated today that they are basically putting their middle finger in disrespect to the Supreme Court's decision, and that they will try to do anything they can to continue the practices that they have. It isn't enough to have a percentage of people who believe that a policy is okay by them. Most of the South, believed that segregation was okay. And then Brown versus Board of Education ruled that equal protection under the law is a value that we must protect in the United States. But unfortunately, the Democratic Party in the 1950s had a massive resistance to integration. And right now, we can see from President Biden's messaging that he is going to have a massive resistance to equality under the law for Asian Americans, and we are going to continue to fight it. None of this gobbledygook about percentages here and there is going to override a simple fact that racism is unacceptable no matter what your excuse is for it. And so this is so important that we're going to keep fighting. We're going to be vigilant, and we're going to make sure that their sneaky tricks to continue their racism will not survive.
Right. Raj Bhatoria, let's just talk about how did colleges use affirmative action in admissions before? Were they preferring or giving preference to certain people of certain color or certain race or certain ethnic background, say, in comparison to the Asian community?
Yeah. So I'm glad that Asra mentioned segregation. Segregation is one of many things in American history that has disadvantaged certain communities. What does it mean for a community to be disadvantaged? That means they come from a high school that's underfunded. That means their families, their parents may not have gone to college because there were racist policies in place at the time. That means they may earn less money, but they still need to meet the admission criteria to attend a college. For example, Harvard. Every student, whether it be Black, Indian, or white, or any other race, who attends Harvard University meets a minimum criteria for academic achievement, which is an incredible hurdle at Harvard University. What affirmative action means and what will continue to, what colleges must take into account in a post-affirmative action world is that when an applicant comes and they're extremely qualified, but they faced incredible adversity, which means they came from a family that faced poverty, or they came from a high school that didn't have the proper funding for test prep or schooling. It means they should be giving a preference if they meet all the same academic criteria as a student who grew up in a privileged background.
Right.
So this means these are academic equals who are then being presented, and you have to make a choice between the two. Well, one had to climb out of a much larger hole in a much more tough circumstance than the other to reach that point. And so I think for that reason...
And what has unfortunately happened is that it is the color of the skin that has been used to identify the adversity that a student faces. And that's not a fair barometer, and it is not legal either. It's unconstitutional. And that's why it's such a victory.
Well, the color of the skin should not be a reason to get admission into college, but should not also be a reason to exclude someone from getting admission into a college. Well, 9 states, including California as well as Florida, had already banned race as a factor in admissions to public universities. And now this is going to be a blanket ruling as far as universities in the United States are concerned. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast.